So Halloween is just around the corner, and that has me thinking about my childhood. So in this video, I'm going to share some of the things my parents did, who my parents were born and raised during the time of the Depression. So my mom was significantly older than me, as was my dad, and they had 12 kids. And so these are some of the lessons I learned from being in a household of 14. And the first thing is, much of the homes we live in are wants and not needs. Everybody needs a home, but you don't need a super big home. You don't need multiple bathrooms and many bedrooms for a family of 4. Our family of 14 had 4 bedrooms and 1.5 baths, and we survived. We were just put on a schedule. And so that experience and that life experience, and I didn't feel like we were missing anything, taught me that a lot of the homes that we're living in today are well above our needs. And so hopefully that doesn't strike a nerve. Now, if you can afford it and it is well within your budget and you're saving and you're investing and it's something you want, by all means, budget it in. I personally like the idea of having 2 bathrooms in a home. I mean, there was definitely some struggles there, having the 1.5 bathrooms, being on a schedule, and when both bathrooms were full and you just had to stand out there and wait to go, and banging on the door sometimes, if somebody went over their schedule. But yeah, having a home, much of what we have is well above the needs category and starts to fit in want category. 2, Halloween being around the corner, it made me think about, trick-or-treating and what my mom did. There were no snacks in the household. My mom lived very much on a food budget. So only my dad worked. He worked in construction, and his income had to provide for a household of 14. And they were able to do it. And how did they do it? Well, my mom had a set food plan. So I knew what we were eating Monday. I knew what we were eating Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. There was no guesswork. And so that made shopping pretty easy. You knew you needed the pasta, so we had pasta every day. So pasta fazool, pasta badan, pasta cauliflower, I can go on. But it was different meals, different days, and Sunday was the Sunday spaghetti sauce. So that taught me that when it comes to food shopping, a lot of people are buying more than they need. And if you set a plan for your food budget, and if you set a plan of exactly what you're going to be cooking, then there is nothing that goes to waste. The other thing that my parents did is my dad put a grocery pantry in the garage. He put the shelving system in. And so when my mom would go shopping, because she knew what she was going to make, if olive oil went on sale, she would just bulk up and buy the olive oil if it went significantly on sale. And when we were to put the groceries away, we would rotate the groceries so nothing ever spoiled and went bad. So that lesson taught me you don't need all these extra things. You can really be careful on what you're buying and going with a list and knowing what you have to eat. So the next thing is, there was no junk food in the house. Junk food was really left for parties. And so if it was someone's birthday, and it usually was always someone's birthday coming along, because 14 of us in the house, my mom would bake a cake and she would throw a party. And she was really great at throwing these parties. And that's what she would pick up, the chips and the snacks, and bake the cake. Whoever's birthday it was, they could decide on what kind of cake they wanted. And my mom would then go and make the cake for that person. So that's how she did parties, and it worked really great in our household of 14. The next thing she did is when it came to holiday shopping. My mom had a very big walk-in closet in their bedroom, and in the back of the closet is where she would use to store holiday presents. And so she would be buying gifts all year long, but she would buy them mostly when she saw a sale. So it wasn't December, December, go out and just go buy gifts. it was usually January that she was buying for the next year. And she would just go through and buy things when they were on sale. And she would also be setting money aside and doing that for when it came to school shopping. When school shopping would be when we would get new clothes and new shoes, new new supplies for the classroom and stuff like that. So she was always putting some money of her budget on the side. So that taught me to plan for things ahead. And my dad really taught me that when it came to vacations. So my dad worked in construction. He actually built the Throgs Neck Bridge that's connecting Queens to the Bronx. And so in the summer months, he would try to take off, but he would always be planning to visit back to Italy. And so they would look up great flights and keep an eye out for when the deal would go on sale, and he would get the trips, and he'd be looking forward to going and seeing his family and being gone for about 4 to 6 weeks, depending on how much time he could get off in the summer. And so that taught me, and it's probably where I get my love for planning things and seeing the enjoyment before you actually even go on the trip as well. So that comes from my dad. The other thing that my parents would do is nothing went to waste. Nothing. Now, they were not hoarders, but we did, my parents did have 12 kids. And so if there was a piece of wood, that piece of wood could be made into a table. So for instance, when we would have dinner and we got together for dinner every night, there would be this big slab of wood that would go over the table, and my mom stapled a tablecloth to it. So they had like those really cheap tablecloths that would go on it that would be like sort of like felt. And so she had that, she used it, and then we would put another tablecloth on top of that. And so we would bring that into the room, into the kitchen, and it would be stored in the garage, and every night we would go in and put it on the table. So use what you have. And it came to a lot of things around the house. So if a shower door came off or something, my dad would repurpose that to somewhere outside in his shed, whether it be protection against rain for a little outdoor patio that he had built. And I even remember one particular memory that really stuck out. He knew the team that was working on the Roosevelt Field Mall in Long Island, and they had all this extra marble that broke. And they came with dump trucks and delivered all this marble onto my parents' driveway. And my dad came around with his little wheelbarrow and used that marble all around the house. Like, for instance, he put marble trim around all the trees. He put marble flooring in his garage, which was fine because he didn't really put the car in there. He put his motorcycles in there, and that was more of a food pantry kind of space. But he repurposed and used that marble everywhere around the house. So he basically made like mosaic tiles all around a lot of patios that he'd put in. And so that taught me to repurpose, reuse, and just because something looks like it's gone doesn't mean it can't be used for something else. And so for instance, as an example for myself, when I get a new comforter and the comforter comes in this nice plastic container, with a little zipper, I use those, I stick them in my luggage, and I use them for, laundry. So if we're gonna take laundry home, put the laundry in there, zip it up, and we're good to go. Behind me, you could see I have this wood little trim thing. I made that myself. I put wrapping paper behind it, so sometimes even little pieces of what you have left can repurpose up a space and make something look pretty. So I learned that again from my parents. Oh, I could go on and on the things I learned from my parents. So anyway, let me think of the next one. So I talked about meal planning. I talked about, Halloween. When we would go trick-or-treating, this was probably, I really, really loved Halloween. So my mom would help make our costumes or repurpose things that we had, and including, since she only went school shopping over September, she knew how to get, and how to sew, had a sewing machine, and so she would repurpose things that we had. I remember my graduating from elementary school, my sister actually made the dress that I wore, and I just loved it. I just loved the dress. My mom got the patterns, and she made the dresses for us. And we lived in suburbia. We didn't live out on a farm out in the middle of nowhere. But the other thing my mom would do is, when we did go trick-or-treating, the day we were trick-or-treating, we could have all the candy that we wanted. But after that, all the candy that was left over would go in a bag. And every day thereafter, until the candy was gone, we could each pick one in age order and have, in the beginning, maybe the first week, it was 2 candies per day, and then it went down to 1 candy a day, so that we could pick candy and have candy from what we had gone trick-or-treating. So she would go through, and then we put it in a bag, and every day after school we would have some candy. So these are just some helpful things that living with parents who went through the Depression, who lived through it, how careful they were with money, how thought they were with the things they purchased. And one of the other things I learned from them, and I still do it to this day, is use things up before you purchase new ones. Just because your table doesn't work for a growing family, and all 14 of us couldn't sit around the kitchen table, didn't mean that you can't be ingenuine and figure out the way that they did, how to put another table over a table to create a table of 14. My dad even made benches for the table so that we had benches that we could all sit around and have a meal together. And my mom having the meal plan and, of what we were going to have, also eliminated so much extra spending and waste. And so the home we lived in, my dad was so resourceful, including of things he did around the house. It was us who were working around the house. We didn't have someone who came and mowed our lawn, or someone who came and cleaned out the pool. We all had different chores that we did around the house, and it saved so much money on that front as well. And then, of course, even up until the pretty much in the last year of my dad, the last week of my dad's life, he was still doing things around the house, and until he could no longer was able to. But that last week he was still working on the garage. But anyway, I digress. But some wonderful things I learned from my parents who lived through the Depression times, and how to be careful with money, how to use what you have, how to be resourceful with both time and money. And yeah, sometimes our wants bleed into our needs, and people think that things are needs, but you don't need a home that is that big. Grew in a home full of love and laughter, and 1.5 bathrooms for 14 people. Anyway, this is Regina from Simply Fundamental. Hope you enjoyed this one. A little bit different, but they're always all a little different. And I will catch you on the next one.